Good lunchtime, everyone. There isn't a fitting um, greeting for a lunchtime session, but I'll coin good lunchtime to you all. Welcome to this HVG event. This session is going to be run by myself and my colleague on screen, Vanessa. So I'm the events executive for the Heritage Volunteering Group. And Vanessa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, happy to. I'm vice chair for Heritage Volunteering Group, and I'm also co-chair of the London Heritage Volunteering Group with Rhiannon.
I forgot that one. Thank you, Vanessa. Lovely. So the purpose of today's session is really give you some time to chat amongst each other. So we are focusing today on reimagining recognition for volunteers. But actually, what we're going to do is get you to do a lot of the legwork. So, in some of the feedback that we have received on the events to date, one of the things that's come up is that you perhaps are missing a bit of chance to chat to colleagues about the practice that they're doing and really work it through as colleagues within the sector. So today's session is going to give you lots of ideas and ways to think about recognition and volunteers, but we're going to be crowdsourcing a lot of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, um, if you want to go to the next slide, Vanessa. We are going to have two sets of breakouts, so lots of time for you to chat to colleagues from across the UK, lots of different organisations. The first breakout, we're going to focus on idea generation and we're going to feed back. The second one is a little bit about what you need to think about when thinking around volunteer recognition. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? What are the factors that restrict what you feel able to do? And then we're going to finish off the session with some additional reflections and some ideas perhaps that you haven't thought about. So that's what we're going to do in the next just under an hour. But first of all, we're going to have a think about why we recognise, aren't we, Vanessa?
We certainly are. We're going to actually ask you to put some questions in for us. I'm going to just post a link into the chat for you, and then what we're going to ask you to do is actually put in some things that you might do as to why you recognise volunteers. It's really important, I think, before you even think about what you might want to do for volunteers, is why you actually do it. What does meaningful recognition look like in your context? So just bear with me while I try and get that link into the chat.
So what we're going to do is we're going to share a Slido link for you. So you're going to follow the link, and what we want to hear from you is all of the reasons why we recognise volunteers, why we spend that time thanking and acknowledging their support for us. So the link is now in the chat. Please do click through it, and then we're going to share the results in a moment with you. So we're going to give a couple of minutes for everyone to do that, and I'm going to put some ideas in myself. Vanessa, should we pick up on some of those that are coming through?
Yeah, there's some lovely ones actually, and I think some of the ones that we'd always probably appreciate what everyone has to say is to show our appreciation for all they do and to help make people feel valued, which I think is extremely important. And thanking them is very important, I think, to just remember that volunteers will tell you sometimes they don't want to be thanked, but actually it's nice to be recognised. It's nice to make the effort to let them know. It makes them feel that they're valued and that they're part of the organisation, which is what someone else has put in as well, which is really good. It's obviously beneficial for retention of volunteering as well, in the fact that your volunteers will then feel they have a place, they feel that they're being recognised, they're being appreciated for what they do. It's not just their passion and enthusiasm that's keeping them there, it's also the fact that they're building that relationship with you and your organisation. So showing their importance to the organisation as well. So they're feeling included, and that they can ensure that they know that they're appreciated and part of a larger team as well. It's motivation, it's appreciation. There's all those lovely buzzwords that we love as well, to let them know how the impact they make. And I think that's an important thing. We're very good sometimes in letting the volunteers know that we're grateful. Sometimes we say thank you a lot, but do we actually know how what they do actually and how it contributes as well? So I think that opportunity as well to be able to do that as well. So there's a lot more coming in, but I think that's probably got most of them in there, Rhiannon, before we go any further. Otherwise, you know me, I could read War and Peace and carry on.
Yeah, there's some really great stuff in there, and I think the appreciation piece is quite often the highlight, but there's some other really lovely ones around identity, inclusion, being part of the one team. And I think this is what we really need to remember when thinking about recognition activity. It's not always easy to do. Sometimes we face barriers, financial or otherwise, to do it. But what we need to hold true to is all of those fantastic reasons for why we do it. Lovely. Okay, you can keep adding to that. We will share the full list to give you that lovely context following the session. But we're going to go back to the slides now, aren't we, Vanessa? Bearing in mind everything that you have written and read around why we recognise, just want to make that full screen there, Vanessa. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into 6 breakout rooms because there are so many of you. And we've got 3 different things that you are going to, fantastic, that's great, Vanessa. 3 different things that you are going to focus on. So rooms 1 and 2 are going to consider the ideas and ways that you might want to recognise volunteers individually. So each individual, how you might recognise their input, their achievements, their contributions. Rooms 3 and 4 are going to consider how you collectively recognise volunteers. So that might be a team, or it might simply be the contribution of all of your volunteers together that you're thinking about recognising, all the ways and ideas that you've had to do that. And then the last 2 groups, 5 and 6, are going to consider how you might shout out about volunteer contributions, both internally to your organisations, but also externally. Because whilst we think about recognition and we think about the individuals themselves, there is a fantastic way of recognising volunteers, which is to talk about the impact that they're having externally and to your senior teams within the organisation. So what we want to think about today is the recognition on those 3 levels. So groups 1 and 2, how you recognise volunteers individually, 3 and 4 collectively, 5 and 6, that sort of PR piece. And what we really want you to do is think about all of the ideas perhaps that you have had but perhaps not implemented, things that you've seen happen and have been really successful elsewhere, or things that you've also run yourself and you feel that they are really valuable and would be worth sharing with everyone. Um, and we're going to give you 15 minutes to do this, so quite a beefy amount of time. But what we do want you to do is come back. So if you could nominate 1 or 2 people within your group to come back and to feedback your top 3 points, was it, Vanessa?
Yep.
On the particular one that you had. Is that all clear? Everyone happy with what you're doing? Give me a nod. Lovely. Okay, so we're gonna get these rooms created for you. Going to give you, as I say, 15 minutes.
Great, lovely. All right, so we want to try and get some feedback. Rhiannon's going to try and write some notes, but I think some of you can probably see the whiteboard in front of you. And I think looking at the flashing names that we're seeing all across it at the moment, it means that most of you have probably got access to them as well. So what we'd like to do is obviously hear from room 1 with their top 3, and those top 3 could be anything. It could be anything that you thought was that was the most important to you as far as recognizing your volunteers, or something that you've heard, or it could be something that you would like to incorporate as well. So that top 3 could be anything. So who's our speaker from room 1?
Um, I think we were room 1, were we, Vanessa? Steve?
Yes, you were, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think badges and awards are clearly individual, and they vary. They can be Volunteer of the Month, they could be an annual award, they could be a long service award, something like that. Oftentimes, it results in a badge or a certificate. And then there's applying to external awards on behalf of one particular volunteer as well. There's discounts and free parking when volunteers have achieved a certain number of hours in one particular organisation. There's highlighting individuals within a collective newsletter, if you like, really. So there's a profile of a volunteer of a month or something like that. And then there's the more personal thing about actually just saying thank you, and either saying it verbally or putting it in when you're emailing a volunteer on a one-to-one basis, making sure that they know how appreciative you are of their contribution, really.
Cool, lovely. There's some really nice things there and I think we'll probably find a bit of a theme probably going on.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
know.
sorry. There was one other thing. Sorry. This is
It's
more
no
than top
problem.
three, but actually, appointing lead volunteers or project group activity group leaders, which is clearly that's a recognition of an individual's experience, knowledge, ability, potential, whatever.
Hmm. Great, lovely. I
Okay.
can see Alex has already got his hand up from obviously room two.
Yeah.
So it'd be lovely to thank you, Steve. That's
Thank
great. There's some lovely ones there. And I think Rhiannon's got most of those captured on the board. Alex, would you like to add anything to any of those?
Yeah, so we came up with very similar things, but there was a few extras that we haven't mentioned before. So one is like also looking at skills development, particularly with thinking of the individual and for the different reasons why they may want to volunteer. That can be done on like a personal level. And another one which we're doing this year in Bolton Museum is we're utilising our volunteers to select objects from the stores and then select reasons. They give their reasons why they've chosen a particular object, so that really helps them feel involved and motivated and part of the museum. And they can go to the collections that they're most interested in. And we found that has been quite successful for
Okay, Alex,
recognizing. Yeah.
just on that one, how
Mm,
you obviously get the volunteers to select that
mm,
object. What do you
yeah.
actually then do? You record it somewhere? Do you actually
Yeah.
share it in a newsletter or something?
Well, it's for a special exhibition that will have the volunteer's name alongside with other staff and students. It's a whole exhibition generated by different people's choices, and it will have their reasons of why they selected the object. So their name will be in the exhibition, and it'll be part of that exhibition. So it raises the profile of the
Yeah.
volunteers, and
And it recognises them, which is lovely, especially to the public that might be coming
yeah,
in as well. That's great.
yeah,
Lovely. Oh no, I
yeah.
like that one. Yeah.
That's right.
Anything else, Alex, that you wanted to add?
I think it was mainly covered by Steve, unless Victoria, was there something else you wanted to add in there?
To be honest, I think everything's been covered.
Yeah, I think we're all sorts. We all so it was good discussion, and it really helped sort of like make us aware of like what we actually do collectively and what we do individually. And we did just think that it's actually those more impersonal sort of like informal thank yous that actually are very valuable.
Yeah.
And that is something just to remember.
Yeah, it is. It's very important. I think sometimes I used to hear that time and time again to different organisations that I would join, that I'd find that volunteers would say, well, I never hear anything from one week to the next. I don't know what's going on. I don't know, who's around and whatever. And you just think that just seems so sad. There's no reason why we shouldn't be involving them and engaging them. Right. Thank you very much for that. Rooms 1 and 2. That was really great. Right. So we're going to go on to room 3 as well. We're going to be talking about collectively. So who's our speaker from room 3? So we're talking about collectively, we're talking about teams. It could be, your volunteers as a whole in the organisation. It could be individual teams. But how do you do a group of people rather than the individual?
A group of people rather than the individual. So I mean, for us in York and Lot, I tend to organise sort of behind the scenes visits, as it were, to buildings that partner with us for our Open Doors event, and ensuring that it's a building that can take enough people on one visit, so it's not just a building that can have 5 people at a time or something. So like about probably 20 people at a time join us for our sneaky peeks. We always try and operate on like zero budget, so it's pretty much our aims are kind of getting people together and trying to give back. So understanding what people really want out of their volunteering with us, and in our case, it's probably a unique behind the scenes visit to a building that they know other people aren't going to get. So that's kind of where we go for hours. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's got some as well. Rachel, do you have any to add from room 4?
Right. I think I've probably forgotten all of that I've heard because Steve at V&A and Pippa in Leicestershire Culture, they're in two completely different organisations, and I'm in a very small museum, and we're all doing extremely different things. But they did have lots of good ideas about the way they were trying to do things, to recognise groups, and how personal it could be, and how there was also a danger of over recognising and over recognising people with thanks from people they've never really met or don't really know. And maybe there's too much of it, but they try to do different things. I mean, because Pippa's working across a whole load of services with teams, so it's different for her. I'm hands-on because I'm running it as the chair, and then Steve again, he's got teams of volunteers in different departments, so it was all really different. So it was a lot, but I got some good tips, so that was great. Thank
Great,
you.
lovely. All right, Rachel, do you have some of those that you could share? There's some of the things that they came up with as ideas,
Yes,
even though they're
well,
different organisations, because that's the beauty, is the fact that sometimes it can actually put a light bulb moment on for others in other
yeah.
organisations as well.
Well, I was talking about how it's difficult to try to keep hold of volunteers when there's so many things going on at the same time. And Pippa did suggest about a press release because I'd been talking about how transparent we are in saying we're conscious that there aren't real actual roles at the minute because we've been asking people, can you come in and do this? Can you come in and do that? But again, a press release when it comes up to say volunteers week or something like that, we can just say our volunteers have got us to this point. Without them, the museum would not have opened. And that's a simple fact.
Yeah.
And things like that. And also suggesting that look at the Volunteers Week, which I have come across before, at the templates that are available for us. Make it a bit easier and cheaper.
Great. All right, lovely. Okay, well, that's great. Thank you. Right, thank you very much, Livia and Rachel. Appreciate those feedbacks and some of those comments. So we're now going to go to room 5 and to room 6. Who have we got there from those rooms so they can talk a little bit more about what you do to shout out a bit more internally and externally? So who have we got?
I was in room 5.
Emma, thank you.
So we talked about a few different things. One was social media, shouting out on social media about volunteers. We also talked about newsletters. I think different organisations varied in who received the newsletter. So some of us send a volunteer newsletter just to volunteers, and some send it out to staff as well. So if it is going out to staff, it's a good way of raising the profile of volunteers and what they're doing in the wider organisation. We also talked about, so those are like places that have visitors coming in, being able to promote what your volunteers are doing to those visitors. So that might involve like posters and things like that in your organisations, or something that we do for Volunteers Week is a video showing all about volunteer impact, and we show it on the big screens in the building. So that means any of the public are seeing that. We talked a bit about teams and other internal systems, whether you've got those kind of discussion forums within your organisation that you can use that to shout out about volunteers. And then we talked a bit about parties and events for Volunteers Week as well.
Brilliant. Lovely. Thank you, Emma. That's great. Okay, room 6. Who have we got in room 6? Anyone from room 6?
Hello. Yeah, I was in
Hi,
room
Tom.
6. We talked internally about newsletters again, and we talked kind of about shouting out specific volunteers or specific groups of volunteers, and both like the benefit of that, but also then the risk maybe of highlighting some volunteers over others. So there were concerns about some people feeling left out if another group has been highlighted. We also talked about other things that can be done internally. So I think our organizations were very different. We went between having 2 members of staff to having 80 members of staff. So as far as sharing kind of volunteer achievements with staff, that is obviously going to depend a lot on what the organization is like. but things like having an intranet that staff have access to and making sure that's always got news about what volunteers are up to. We talked about, having notice boards that kind of can highlight volunteer achievements to staff as well. And then also special events where you can bring kind of staff and board members and, management with volunteers, where everyone can kind of be together and there can be, kind of a recognition that everyone's working towards the same goal. Externally, social media again was mentioned, and then also having volunteers kind of front and center to the public as well. So making sure that visitors can see the impact that volunteers have and can see that volunteers are a part of the organisation.
Brilliant. Lovely. Thank you very much for that. That was great. So we've got some lovely feedback there as well. Rhiannon's obviously been busily typing away to get all of those onto the whiteboards for us. And so hopefully we can actually then cover that off and put that in detail and send those out to you as well with the slides that we've already covered, just so you've got some ideas as well. So the next thing we wanted to do was just do another little breakout with you. And this time we're just going to split you into effectively six rooms again, but we're only going to cover 2 questions. So 3 of you so rooms 1 to 3 will cover the first question, and rooms 4 to 6 will cover the second question. Now, the first question is, we want you to consider how you would guide someone in an organisation to approach volunteer recognition. What are the points that you would consider, that you would tell somebody that they would need to consider when it comes to volunteers recognition? Rhiannon touched on it earlier when we were talking about the fact that it can sometimes be quite difficult in our organisations to get them to take it on board or to do something practically. So what would you think are your 3 top tips that you would give someone about how they should approach volunteer recognition? And I think one underlying theme that I think you've come out with, which I think is a really important one, is this one about making sure that we're not over prioritizing people, or we're not necessarily recognizing everybody. So there's that fairness. So what would there be a top tip in amongst there? So rooms 1 to 3, if you can discuss that between yourselves and actually just think about what that might be there. And then in rooms 4 to 6, if you can look at...
show your slides, Vanessa?
Yes, sure. Sorry, haven't I shared them? Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so first question for everybody, just to recap then, to make sure that's easy enough, is we're going to just shove you into rooms because it's just a quicker response if we put you into smaller groups. But the first one is considerations to guide how each organisation approaches volunteer recognition. What top 3 tips would you give to somebody about thinking about volunteer recognition in their organisation as to what they should consider? And in the last groups, 4 to 6, key best practices that every organisation should aim to implement. What do you think are the things that they should try and definitely do as far as your organisations are concerned when it's recognising volunteers as well? So your top 3 tips again that you'd come back with as well. So Rhiannon, if you can put them all into rooms, that would be great. And we're going to give you about 5 minutes for this one, because otherwise we won't have very much time, but hopefully we can come up with that one quite quickly. And then we'll bring you back. We'll just do a brief recap, and then Rhiannon and I will just share some other ideas with you as well. And then we'll close the session. But thank you very much. Talk to you very soon. Welcome back. Thank you very much. Hope you've had nice conversations in your rooms as well about the things that you would recommend and the things that you feel that you definitely should do as best practice. Okay, we'll get started in a second when we're all back.
We're all back.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, all right. We only gave you obviously a few minutes to work that one through. But room 1, who we got 3 of you in room 1.
Yeah, I'm happy to represent. So
thank you. We're not going to use the whiteboards because of that whole interference of all the cursors floating around. Don't upset Rachel. So therefore, we're going to keep the recording going. And then what we're going to do is we'll just write it all up and then share them with you afterwards. Okay, so Pippa, feel free. Go ahead.
Perfect. Top tip, stick to thank yous. Don't dilute it. Don't dilute the thanks with other calls to action. So don't use it to kind of like obviously recruit for volunteers or obviously direct to a donation page. Another one was get senior leadership team and kind of trustees buy-in so that their voice, they are aware of it also taking place. Don't forget or exclude anyone. So this is where, by celebrating individuals, try and remember to mention the whole groups as well, and the importance of making this a team effort rather than placing too much responsibility on one individual to coordinate it all. And avoid kind of like surface level thanks. So if you can make it purposeful and meaningful, related to the individual or related to the purpose, that has much more value.
Brilliant, lovely. No, like all those, but thank you. Room 2, who's going to be speaking this time?
Yeah, I can
Alex, well done.
It's picked up really well with what Pippa said about the recognising, making sure that no one's actually excluded, or try and make it as inclusive as possible. So that if there are award ceremonies, so we say like have it so that everyone is recognised in addition to someone that is particularly recognised. So it's just like a careful sort of balance. Some of the things we also discussed on was about asking the volunteers themselves, in what ways would you like to be recognised, or what ways are meaningful to you? And we might find it's very different in different groups of volunteers or different organisations. So I think having that conversation, whether it's either in like a survey or like just informally asking people, that could be a good way of contacting the volunteers, and also just utilise and use the resources that we've currently got within the organisation. We might be recognising people in many ways that we're not actually aware of. So as well as volunteer managers and supervisors thanking volunteers, it's about the rest of the team as well within the organisation, and I give them that sort of like that more personal message of thanks going through.
Great, lovely. Thanks, Alex. That was brilliant. And I like some of those feedbacks as well. I think it's really important on your intranet. You could even have feedbacks from members of staff about if you want to do something on a volunteers page as well, that you can say how the volunteers have contributed and how they've recognised them as well. It's really nice sometimes for volunteers to see things like that as well, and taking photographs of them and things like that as well, and sharing about them as well. So no, great ideas there. Thank you. Room 3, who's going to feedback on this one?
I'm happy to if you want, Vanessa. We didn't actually decide, but just a couple of things that haven't been mentioned, because we did cover most of what's already gone. Make sure that you're recognising people in an appropriate time and method. Different groups, different demographics will respond to different things, so don't necessarily feel that one size fits all. And then also looking about, can the organisation afford it in the sort of medium to long term? Because we've all heard stories, apocryphal or not, about Christmas lunches that have been cancelled a few days beforehand and stuff like that. It's that sort of thing about, does that mean we're not good enough if you've stopped the scheme? So there are implications about setting out on this journey. You've got to have the resources. It's not always money, obviously, but there's a danger of withdrawing anything in this area, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. It's sustainability as well, isn't it? And the fact is, and it's making sure that you can continue to do it. If you're going to do it one year, why are you doing it that particular year, but you might not then do it into other years? And if you are going to do it as a new thing, now you're going to be able to continue to do it going forward. And if you don't do it going forward, it's the impact of what you actually say to your volunteers. What's the message that you've suddenly then said to your volunteers? As you said, Steve, oh, we're not important then, so no one's interested in us. They didn't want to do that for us this year. So it is helping to, where the powers that be, those that are holding onto the purse strings, realise that if we're going to be introducing this, it needs to be consistent, because the fact is we can't affect it. Volunteers will always understand if there's money issues and certain things have got to go, like if the whole staff party went and that meant the volunteer activities have to go, people do understand that, but it's making sure it's sustainable. That's good. Steve, was there anything else? That was great. Lovely. Thank you very much. I'm just conscious of time. So we'll just go straight into room 4. Obviously, the second one about what do you think are the key practices? Who's going to speak for room 4? I'm looking at the names on there. Livia, is that going to be you again, my dear?
Oh, yeah. Or I can speak if Olivia.
Nicola, great, lovely.
Okay. So we had a quick discussion. So we came up with recognising all volunteers would be best practice, and making it genuine, so about your volunteer achievements, and then recognising volunteers throughout the year, not just in Volunteers Week. So those were 3 things we came up with. We discussed lots of other things, but that's 3 for the to start with.
That's brilliant. No, no, absolutely. And I think it is again as well, is the fact is it's not just for one particular week, like Volunteers Week. It is actually thinking as well throughout the year as well, that what you can do to help to contribute to that. Okay, room 5, and Jessica or Rachel, who's gonna speak for us on that one?
I'm happy to go for our point. So
Thanks, Jessica.
thanks. So we were just saying that the communications that you do put out on the volunteers that you have. So we were saying that some people don't like to use email, some people appreciate a telephone call and things like that. So just look at your volunteer base and base any sort of thank yous or recognition in a way that will be adapted to them to make sure they don't miss out. Because a lot of what I send out is via email, so I have to remind myself to occasionally put stuff in the post or make a phone call. And then Volunteers Week was we thought maybe a minimum because it's kind of nationally known. So if you can do something, even if it's just put a poster up to say thank you, that's quite good as a minimum. And then the third point we had was basically just to be kind to yourself. You will make mistakes. You may accidentally miss someone out, or like you were saying earlier, shout too loud about maybe someone when you should be talking about the rest of the group. So when you're starting to put a program in place, just experiment with it a bit.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I think it's some very good points as well. We've obviously got Volunteers Week coming up in June, which is hence the reason why we wanted to do the session today, just to get everybody thinking. Room 6, Caroline, Sonia, one of you got any other comments that you'd like to add to this?
I'm happy
Yeah,
to.
you go.
Yeah, I was going to say that we didn't decide that it's important whenever possible to encourage the other staff, the supervisors themselves, to be taking the ownership. So it's not just on us as perhaps volunteer managers, but really involving our colleagues. And again, echoing Alex earlier, but asking the volunteers themselves what they're interested in, not making assumptions about them, but really trying to encourage it to be a whole organisation rather than just sitting within volunteering.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Like I said, no, that's lovely. All right, thank you very much. Just conscious of obviously the time now as well. We're getting on to the very last bit that we wanted to just share with you from that point of view of that. Obviously, thank you for all your contributions. I think there was an awful lot there, lots of great ideas that everyone has actually said. I'm going to hand this over to Rhiannon as well, because she's been scribbling notes in the background, and so therefore we all like listening to Rhiannon. So we came up with some additional reflections as well. There are lots of ways that you can look at it as well. Hopefully you've come across some of these, your local volunteer centre awards. I know that Volunteer Centre Greenwich actually have an awards ceremony for people in their borough as well. Local Community Awards, Southwark have their Southwark Stars as well, so they have that as well. I know there's others around. You've got the Museum and Heritage Show, which is going to be on in May. HVG will be there as well. We actually support the volunteer award that they actually do, and it's interesting to think that we could actually put people forward for that as well if you wanted to. There's no reason why you couldn't get more involved with that as well. There's the London Heritage Volunteer Awards that Rhiannon and I support as well from a co-chairing point of view as well, 7 categories as well. And then there's the HVG case studies. Great way if you really want to showcase something wonderful that your organisations are doing or your teams are doing or an individual volunteer has been doing as well, or just collectively you want to talk about your volunteers in general. Please look at the case studies page on the website and please feel free to submit something in. We'd love to get some more case studies up there. People love to hear about what other people's doing. That's what fuels our ideas. Sometimes that whole point of us being volunteer managers within our organisations, we can find it a bit lonely. So it's lovely to talk to other people and get lots of ideas. So please do feel free to contact us and share them. There's the HVG Volunteer Leader of the Year. All right, that's not necessarily volunteers, but it's surprising how many volunteers actually do put forward a nomination for their volunteer managers or their administrators or their leaders of their volunteers as well. So that's another one that will be launched in the next couple of months as well to look out for. And again, there's obviously Volunteers Week, 1st and 7th of June, as we said. And obviously, as Jessica mentioned, the fact is, it is one of those key things. It's that key time. You might decide to do something during Volunteers Week. It might be a case of giving your volunteers tours, might do reciprocal visits. It might be actually an opportunity to actually go out and shout a little bit more about them as well, and do a little bit more on the social media, or at least on the internal intranet. Now I'm going to hand the time over to Rhiannon, because I'm sure she's got an awful lot that she could share, but I'm conscious of time. So thank you for those that are bearing with us as well. Rhiannon, over to you.
I'm not going to say too much because I'm conscious of everyone's time. So what I am going to say though is we're going to collate all of this information for you, and we're going to send it around following the session so that you've got all of those fabulous ideas and suggestions. Really, really do appeal to you to submit your case studies, your examples to HVG, particularly following Volunteers Week this year. We always need new material for the website, and it's a really easy way of you following through on some of the kind of recognition that you've spoken about today. So a really good opportunity for you. We'd also really like to hear what worked, what didn't. So in a future HVG session, what we will do maybe is take a bit of time to reflect on how you did recognise following this session. So that's a date in your diary, undated for now, but we will revisit this and see what new ideas perhaps organisations have come up with. But without further ado, we are going to wrap there. For anyone who can stay for a couple of moments and complete the evaluation, I'd be really grateful. But if you can't, don't worry, I can send it by email. And it's just a reminder that we do have our inclusion forum at 1:45 for half an hour if you would like to join us to talk anything ED&I. But otherwise, go enjoy the rest of your creative Monday, and we'll see you all next month if you're not joining us at 1:45. Take care, everyone. See you soon.